السلام. أين كنت يا حسين؟ افتقدناك. وصلت بالسلامة، سافرت ورجعت، ما زلت باقية معنا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه تسليما كثيرا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن خير الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى: باب قول الله تعالى: فلا تجعلوا لله أندادا وأنتم تعلمون. We come to the next chapter after the chapter of the statement of Allah Ta'ala, يَعْرِفُونَ نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ ثُمَّ يُنْكِرُونَهَا. The one that we did yesterday, that the people know the favors of Allah Azza wa Jal upon them, and then they make inkar of those favors. And the way that they make inkar of those favors is by saying, this money, it came to me because I inherited it from my father. This thing over here, it happened because the pilot was a good driver. That thing over here, it happened because there was a good cooperative wind. And the people, they say that the good things from the ni'am, the things that have happened, they say that other than Allah was the reason behind it. So that's their inkar. Today is a continuation, sort of, from yesterday's chapter, and it is the prohibition of Allah Azza wa Jal. And that is a statement: do not make any partners with Allah. Do not make any andad with Allah. First thing that we want to mention is the Qur'an, it has many awamir, many things that Allah ordered us to do. And the Qur'an has many nawahi, many things that the Qur'an told us not to do. This is the first command and the first prohibition that comes to us in the Qur'an. This ayat is the first amr. Ya ayyuhan nas i'budu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum. O mankind, worship your Lord. This is the first amr. So if someone were to ask you, the Qur'an has thousands, tens of thousands of awamir. Do this, do that, do this. Make salat, zakat, be patient, do this, give sadaqah, birrul walidain, many things. The very first amr of the Qur'an is the ibadah of Allah Azza wa Jal wahdahu la sharika lahu, At-Tawheed. And it's one of the isharat of the Qur'an, one of the signs, the signals to show the importance of At-Tawheed. The Qur'an has many nawahi. Don't do this, don't do that, don't go over here, don't go over there, don't do this, don't do that, not this, not that. Out of all of those tens of thousands of nawahi, the first nahi of the Qur'an is don't make any partners with Allah. The prohibition of a shirk, showing how dangerous that is and how serious that is. Concerning this ayat, many times the Imam, he only brings a portion of the ayat and he doesn't bring the whole ayat. The rest of the ayat Allah Ta'ala mentioned, or the beginning of the ayat and what comes after, Ya ayyuhan nasi i'budu rabbukum alladhi khalaqakum walladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun alladhi ja'ala lakum al-arda firashan was-sama'a bina'a wa anzala min as-sama'i ma'a fa akhraja bihi min ath-thamarati rizqan lakum فَلَا تَجْعَلُوا لِلَّهِ أَنْدَادًا وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. O mankind, worship your Lord, the one who created you people, and he created the people who came before you. So that's a ni'mah. He created you people, and he created the people before you. And he also made for you the earth as a farash. The earth is spread out, it's a canopy. You're living on top of it, and it's stationary. That's a ni'mah. And he made for you the sama, and he made it a canopy. He made it built up. Another ni'mah. And he sent from the sky the rain. And from that rain, which is a ni'mah, he brought forth for you the thamarat of the earth. Apples, oranges, the meat, the food that we eat, vegetables, everything that we eat, that we drink. That's another ni'mah. And then Allah mentioned, because of all of this, don't make any partners with Allah. Don't make any partners with Allah. This ayat of the Qur'an, these two ayats, they go to show the connection of the Tawheed of Allah's Rububiyyah with the Tawheed of Allah's Uluhiyyah. That if a person recognizes the Tawheed of Allah's Rububiyyah, that he is the Rabb, that he is the Khaliq, that he is the Raziq, that he is the one who makes the tadbir. Allah does all of these things. Then it is wajib upon you to worship him alone. Because he did all of those things. You have to worship him alone. That's the connection. Kuffar Quraysh, they acknowledged Allah Ta'ala's Rububiyyah. He is the Rabb, he is the Khaliq. But when it came to worshiping him, they said, no, we're not going to worship Allah Azza wa Jalla. So that's the first point. That's extremely important, that there is a connection. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. We didn't create the jinn, create, the Khaliq. We didn't create the jinn and mankind except that they should worship us. That they should worship us. When Nuh, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, gave da'wah to his people, as is mentioned in the Qur'an, like Surah Nuh, he said, فَقُلْتُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ غَفَّارًا يُرْسِلِ السَّمَاءَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِدْرَارًا وَيُمْدِدُكُمْ بِأَمْوَالٍ وَبَنِينَ وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ جَنَّاتٍ وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ أَنْهَارًا مَا لَكُمْ لَا تَرْجُونَ لِلَّهِ وَقَارًا وَقَدْ خَلَقَكُمْ أَطْوَارًا. He gave da'wah to his people in the open, in the secret. He gave them individual da'wah, collective da'wah. He did a lot of things. He had a tanawwa'. He wasn't just one straight way without any flexibility. One way doesn't work, do it the other way, as long as it is legislated. So I gave them in secret, I gave them in open, I gave them in public, I gave them individually, I gave them like this, I gave them like that. I gave them da'wah by showing them the example that I'm calling to, and then they disbelieve. So I said to them, and this is the point, I told them, ask for Allah's forgiveness, for in verily he is Ghaffar. He is the one that sent down upon you rain upon rain and all of the good that came from the skies. He is the one that has given you power and ability, and he gave you children. Allah is the one. And he went on to mention all of these things that Allah gave to them. So then the ayah said, مَا لَكُمْ لَا تَرْجُونَ لِلَّهِ وَقَارًا. What is wrong with you that you don't turn to Allah in worship, in respect, and humility, and in honor? What's wrong with you? When he gave you children, and he gave you this, and he gave you that. He is the Khaliq, he is the Rabb. So that comes in the Qur'an many times. At-Tawheed, the three aqsam of Tawheed are connected. The person who knows Allah is the Rabb and the Lord, the Khaliq, then he should know that Allah Azza wa Jal deserves to be worshipped. That's the meaning. As it relates to the issue of al-andad, al-andad is the plural to the singular, which is the nidd. The nidd in Arabic language is the nadhir or the mathal. The nidd is the one who you make equal. to make something equal with something else. So Allah Azza wa Jal said, don't make anyone from the creation, anyone, anything equal with Allah. No matter who he is, no matter what it is. The Arsh is the biggest thing that Allah Azza wa Jal has created. It's not equal to Allah. Allah is a'zam and akbar than the Arsh. The Kursi is big, is less than the Arsh. So if the Arsh, Allah is greater than the Arsh, then Allah Azza wa Jal is greater than, clearly, the Kursi. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Jibreel, Mikael, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim ajma'een, they are great in their creation, in their status, but Allah is greater than that. So this is a fundamental, elementary, easy lesson, but unfortunately, many of the Muslims don't comprehend it. Many Muslims don't comprehend, and they believe and think that what they're upon is al-Islam, and the person is making a nid with Allah Azza wa Jalla, a partner with Allah night and day, as you're going to see, inshallah. He went on to mention, rahimahullah ta'ala, that Abdullah ibn Abbas, concerning this ayat, he wanted to talk about the nid. He said that the andad, it is a shirk. It is a shirk. And it is lighter, akhfa. It is lighter, easier. Like you can't see it. It's lighter than the black ant walking on the black rock in the darkness of a cave, for an example. You can't see the black ant walking right now. You can't see him and the lights are on because he's so small. But it's a black ant walking on a black rock in the darkness of a black cave. Some shirk is like that. Some people have andad, people who practice the religion and what they say. He didn't mean it, and alhamdulillah for the rahmah of Allah ta'ala, he doesn't hold people accountable for what they just make mistakes in, but he holds them accountable for what their hearts say. But many people have statements of kufr and shirk, supposed to be people of Islam. So that's the tafsir of Abdullah ibn Abbas. Look at some of the examples that he brought that were common during the time of the people of the Jahiliyyah, and it's also common right now. Some of the examples of the andad, how people make partners with Allah Azza wa Jal, is the statement that some people say, Wallahi wa hayatika ya fulan. When a person swears, he says, Wallahi, I swear by Allah, and I swear by your life. This is something Kuffar Quraysh used to do. I was born and raised in America. We used to say, I swear on my mother's grave. You want to show something to someone that what you're saying is truthful and it's important? You say, I swear on my mother's grave. That's in America. How many years, thousands of years removed from a Jahiliyyah? This is what people say today. Wallahi wa hayatik. I swear by Allah, I swear by your life, so and so. Another example that he gave is the statement where a person says, if it wasn't for the small dog, the los or the losos, the thief would have come in and he would have robbed us. If it wasn't for the small dog, like the dog that's in the house, the small dog, when the criminal comes, the dogs start barking and the people wake up, and then the criminal runs away. And so they say, we were saved by the bar. That's shirkun khafi. That is a statement, as the ayah said, يَعْرِفُونَ نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ ثُمَّ يُنْكِرُونَهَا. They know the ni'mah of Allah and then they reject it. What do you mean the dog barked? Who gave the ability to the dog to bark? Who woke you up and gave you the ability to hear the dog barking? So it all goes back to the ta'zeem of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So it was because of Allah that we were saved from the thief. He gave another example, something that the Kuffar of Quraysh used to do, and people continue to do it today in many parts of Africa that I've been to. They said, if it wasn't for the duck, then the criminal would have robbed us. The thief would have robbed us. In Jahiliyyah, this statement had two meanings. One meaning is, they used to believe that the duck would give good luck. So as a result of that, they would let the duck live with them in the house. Okay? So if something happened where they were saved some harm or some evil, tornado came and it didn't hit their house, they'll say it was because of the duck. Another meaning is, if a person domesticates the duck will do the same thing that the dog does. The duck will get used to the people of the Bayt, Ahl al-Bayt, and won't say anything. But if someone comes new, who's not from the Ahl al-Bayt, the duck will start making that duck noise. Ismail, make the duck noise for me. Now, I just wanted to make sure you were paying attention, that's all. So you all know the duck noise. So because the duck starts making the noise, the people pay attention, they wake up, and then like the dog who got their attention, the thief would run away. Again, it's the same scenario. Don't say it was because of the duck or the dog. It was because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I wasn't wearing this tamima, then this wouldn't have happened, or that would have happened. If I didn't have this ayatul kursi on my car, then this, la. Everything is by the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gave a number of examples. He said, rahimahullah ta'ala, is also similar to the person saying to his friend, to his companion, ma sha'Allah wa shit, is a form of shirkun, because the person has put someone equal with Allah. You came to the dars today, and you attended and you prayed in the masjid. Ma sha'Allah wa shit. All praises are due to Allah. It is as Allah willed and as you willed. No, everybody who arrived here, we left our places in an attempt to get here, but our ultimate arrival here is because of Allah Azza wa Jal. You went through the movements and the motions, but Allah Ta'ala created you, and He created what you do. So when the person says, as they used to say in Jahiliyyah, ma sha'Allah wa shit, that is making a nid with Allah Azza wa Jal. So the person of complete Tawheed, he has to wash his mouth of these types of statements that are made intentionally or unintentionally. His kalam always has to be kalam that points to his Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal. He went on to mention, rahimahullah ta'ala, all of this is shirkun billahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. He went on to mention the statement of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, and some of the muhaddithin say that the true narrator of this hadith is Abdullah ibn Umar. Whatever the case is, the hadith is authentic. Anytime there's a discrepancy in the narrators, if they are companions, don't worry about it, because all of the companions are udul. So if some people say it was Abu Bakr and some people say it was Abu Huraira, it doesn't hurt the authenticity of the hadith. But if some people are saying that it was Hassan al-Basri and someone else is saying that it's Ibrahim al-Nakhi, now you have to take your time and change and listen and weigh it up. So some of the scholars of al-Hadith say that it is Umar, as the Imam put here. And some said it's Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with them. And Allah knows best, it seems to be Abdullah ibn Umar. Not what the Shaykh put here, but again, it doesn't hurt. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man halafa bighayri Allahi faqad kafara aw ashraka." Man halafa bighayri Allahi faqad kafara aw ashraka. Anyone who swears by other than Allah, he has disbelieved or he has made shirk. Linguistically, ikhwani, and again, I want to encourage all of you and encourage myself, even the Arab brothers from amongst us, the importance of studying the Arabic language to the best of your ability and to be studious and serious in studying the Arabic language, because it's the key to the knowledges of al-Islam and the jewels of the Qur'an and the Sunnah. When you know the i'rab and you know the sarf and you know the balagha of the Arabic language, your comprehension of the different knowledges of this religion and sciences is going to be that much more enhanced. And if you look at the books that talk about usulul fiqh, they always have a chapter in there about who is a scholar and what are the conditions of the scholar. Some of the ulama said that the scholar has to have memorized the Qur'an. They come up with all of these conditions. One of the conditions is he should be prolific and proficient in the Arabic language. And this is why we say our revert brothers, people in the West, America, and the UK, there's no ulama over here. No ulama. No ulama. It's an amazing thing that when the people of ISIS, it was requested from them, who were your ulama? They mentioned some people were revert Muslims from the UK, from Jamaica, who don't even speak Arabic correctly. The i'rab of their kalam, the pronunciation, the makharij of the huruf, although we could be mutasahilun in the way the makharij of the huruf are, because that's just how Allah created a person. He may not be able to pronounce the word, like some of these Arab brothers who speak English fairly well, but they have an accent. So you can't blame a person too much, I believe, because of his accent. But these individuals, when they speak, they chop the language up. So the Arabic language is the key. Concerning this particular hadith, something is going on linguistically that is important. Whoever swears by other than Allah, he has made kufr or he made shirk. The narrator could have forgotten. He may have forgotten that the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one who swears by other than Allah, he made kufr. Or he said he made shirk. I don't remember which one it was. Either one, they're both serious, and it is shirkul asghar, and it's bigger than the kaba'ir. Another possible interpretation is in the Arabic language, faqad ashraka, faqad kafara, ashraka. He has disbelieved, or he has made shirk, or sometimes means wow as well, sometimes. So he could have fell into both of them. Whoever swears by other than Allah, he fell into kufr and he fell into shirk. He fell into the kufr asghar, that doesn't put him outside of the religion, and he fell into a shirk al-asghar, that doesn't put him outside of the religion, but nonetheless, both of them are bigger from the other saga'ir, like from the other kaba'ir, like drinking khamr and other than that. To swear by other than Allah is for a person to say, I swear by the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa a'udhu billah. He's making the Nabi equal to Allah. I swear by my father, I swear by my mother, I swear by whoever. And that's what the kuffar of Quraysh used to do. They used to swear by their fathers because they respected their fathers. So when the Prophet saw them doing that, he told the people sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in kana halifan falyahlif billahi. Anyone who swears, then let him swear by only Allah, by himself. He went on and he mentioned, rahimahullah ta'ala, that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, the tremendous companion of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, لأن أحلف بالله كاذبا أحب إلي من أن أحلف بغير الله صادقا. Ibn Mas'ud, showing his precision in At-Tawheed and his clarity in Aqidah and his clarity in his minhaj and his worth as a teacher. He said, rahimahullah ta'ala, it is more beloved to me, it is more favorable to me, I prefer to swear by Allah and I'm lying than to swear by other than Allah and I'm telling the truth. This kalam of his is some heavy kalam. I swear by Allah. He said, I prefer, it's more beloved to me, I prefer that if I'm going to swear, that I swear by Allah but I'm lying. I prefer that than to swearing by other than Allah and I'm telling the truth. He doesn't imply and mean with this statement that it is okay to swear by Allah and you're lying. Because swearing by Allah and you're lying is a major sin. It's a major sin. It's ilhad in the names of Allah. We're going to come to that chapter. We did something connected to it. Those people who make ilhad and they play around and they reject some of the names of Allah and they play with the names of Allah. So he's just showing the severity of swearing by other than Allah. And he's showing the seriousness of swearing by Allah and Allah alone. The one who swears by Allah and he's lying, in that action, there is the Hasanat At-Tawheed, because he's swearing by Allah. But it has the Sayyi'atul Kadhib. It has the evil of lying in it, but it has the goodness of Tawheed in it. The one who swears by other than Allah and he's telling the truth, it has the Hasanatul Sidq. The goodness of truthfulness is in what he said, but it has the evil of a shirk. And if you were to look at the two hasans and the two sayyi'ah, it's clear. The hasana of a tawheed is better, greater, more azim than the hasana of a sidq. Sidq is important. The highest level of a sidq is a tawheed. A sidq has different levels. A sidq is one of the 7 conditions of a tawheed. So the khair and the goodness of a tawheed is bigger, better than the goodness and the khair of a sidq. And the evil of shirk, that sayyi'ah, is worse, is darker, it's more severe and more serious than the evil of lying, So that's what he meant, and that's what the Salaf used to do quite often. One of them would say, like Al-Imam Al-Awza'i and other than him, I would prefer to see my son coming out of the house of a prostitute before seeing him come out of the house of an individual who is an innovator. He doesn't want his son to go in the house of a prostitute, not to mention coming out of it. But given that option of this or that, then I prefer him to come out of the house of the prostitute, because prostitution is a kabira from the kaba'ir. But this innovation is bigger than that. And the one who's an innovator, he doesn't know that he's doing something wrong. Whereas my son who comes out of the house of the prostitute, when he comes out, he's going to hide. He's going to come out late at night. He's going to hope no one's looking at him. Whereas the innovator, he may come out and scream at the top of his voice, here I am. This is what I did. How we see some of the people who are in innovation. They have absolutely no hayat. They have no shame. They have no taraddud. They have no shak of what they're doing is right. The person screams at the top of his voice and he says, this is what I did. I did this and I did that. And that's how innovation is. The person doesn't know that it was wrong. He thinks that it's correct. So that's the statement of Al-Imam Abdullah ibn Mas'ud Abu Abdurrahman rahimahullah ta'ala concerning swearing. But the Muslim, he has to swear by Allah and only by Allah. When he swears by Allah, he has to be truthful in swearing by Allah. Don't lie if and when you swear by Allah Azza wa Jal. Hudayf ibn al-Yaman, may Allah be pleased with him, he said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, لا تقولوا ما شاء الله وشاء فلان ولكن قولوا ما شاء الله ثم شاء فلان. Don't say. One of the words that the Muslim has to know is the dhikr ma sha Allah. Ma sha Allah. So there is fiqh in ma sha Allah. There is fiqh. Now is not the time to get into the fiqh of ma sha Allah, but there is fiqh in ma sha Allah, when it should be said and when it is highly recommended to say it. And if you see someone who has some good that Allah blessed him with, many people use the ayah from Surah Al-Kahf to say MashaAllah, because the man who went into his Jannah, one of his 2 Jannahs, that's what he said. And his partner said, if you would have only said MashaAllah, then your thing wouldn't have been destroyed. So there's fiqh concerning MashaAllah. From the fiqh of it is, do not say MashaAllah wa sha'a fulan. It is as Allah wanted and is as so-and-so wanted. It is as Allah wanted and as Prophet Muhammad wanted. It is as Allah wanted and as the Malaika wanted. It is as Allah wanted and is as I wanted. But say, it is as Allah wanted and then as someone else wanted. That is aqeedah, and that's correct. It is as Allah wanted and then as so-and-so, he wanted that particular thing. Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, he used to dislike for a man to say, A'udhu billahi wa bika. I seek refuge in Allah and I seek refuge in you. And it is permissible for a person to say, I seek refuge in Allah and then I seek refuge in you. We already dealt with the details of this chapter of Al-Isti'adha. We did a chapter called Bab Al-Isti'adha tu bi ghayrillahi shirk. Al-Isti'adha is when you try to get help from someone. When you say, A'udhu billahi min ash-shaytan ar-rajim, I seek the assistance of Allah. A'udhu billahi. A'udhu bi rabbin nas. A'udhu bi rabbil khalaq. Rabbil faraq. So you seek refuge in Allah Azza wa Jal or in one of his characteristics. You seek his help. We dealt with that chapter. The great scholar from the Tabi'een, Al-Imam Ibrahim Al-Nakha'i, he used to not like for a person to say, I seek refuge in Allah and you. We explained back then that you only can seek refuge and help in a human being in what he has the ability to do. He has to be living. You can't seek refuge and help and assistance from a human being who's dead, from a human being who's not here. Here we are in Birmingham, and the Shaykh of the Tariqat al-Sufiya, he's all the way up in the further recesses, the far corner in Timbuktu. And the person here says, I seek refuge in the Shaykh. Ya Shaykh, and madad. That's impermissible. That's shirkun billahi. And also we talked about in that chapter the impermissibility of an individual seeking refuge in the jinn and seeking refuge in magicians. He goes to the magician to help him. He goes to the magician to take off magic. So he goes to the magician to take off magic. All of that is impermissible. وَأَنَّهُ كَانَ رِجَالٌ مِّنَ الْإِنسِ يَعُوذُونَ بِرِجَالٍ مِّنَ الْجِنِّ فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا. There used to be some men who used to seek assistance and refuge and help from some of the jinn. And when they used to do that, the jinn used to increase them in fear. They used to increase them in harm by making them afraid. So it was shirkun billah. The Imam Ibrahim Al-Nakha'i, he didn't like for a person just says you shouldn't say Ma sha'Allah wa sha'a fulan. It is as so-and-so want, Allah wanted and so-and-so. You should say, I seek refuge in Allah and then I seek refuge in you. Don't say, I also seek refuge in you, because also is a taswiyah, is still a nid. I seek refuge in Allah, and also I seek refuge in you. La. You have to make a distinction. And this is one of the ways that the Arabic language is ghaniya. It is having balagha. In the Arabic language is clear. In English, you don't always get that. It's faqira, muhtaja. So the person says, I seek refuge in Allah, and then I seek refuge in you. I'm dependent upon Allah alone, and then I depend on your efforts. It was as Allah wanted, and then as so-and-so wanted. So this particular chapter, Ikhwani, is talking about some aspects of ash-shirk al-asghar that people fall into. And although we say ash-shirk al-asghar, nonetheless, it's still a big thing. As I mentioned to you many times before in the hadith of Mahmud ibn Labid, radiyallahu anhu, when the Prophet told the people, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, أَخْوَفُ مَا أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ ash-shirk al-asghar, the thing that I fear the most for you is the small shirk. The companions, they were shocked. They said, what is this small shirk? Because they know all shirk is big. All shirk will destroy. So they said, well, what is that? The small shirk? And he said it is showing off. So the point here is their response when he described it as a shirk al-khafi or al-asghar, the small shirk. Although it is small, don't get tricked by that word. Similar to khamr. Someone will call khamr by a name other than khamr. Someone will call riba by other than the name of riba. Don't get tricked by the word. It's not the word. It is the essence of what's going on, what's happening. So that's the meaning of this particular chapter. أعاذنا الله تعالى جميعا من الشرك ما ظهر منه ما بطن. Okay, Ikhwani, if you brothers have any questions concerning this particular chapter, you can put your questions across. Barakallah fikum. هل عندكم شيء؟ أيوة تفضل يا أخي. The difference between kufr and shirk is, first of all, linguistically, kafara means to cover something up, to deny and to reject. That's kufr. As we've been talking about the ni'mah, the women, they make kufran and ni'mah, or kufr and ni'mah. They reject it. They reject it. So that's what kufr means. Whereas Al-shirk is to make a partner. Al-ishraq is to combine something with something else. So over here, the person, he disbelieved. He made kufr. He denied and rejected Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's haqq of al-ubudiyya, Allah ta'ala's characteristic of al-wahdaniyya. He doesn't believe in it, he rejects it. Over here, this person, he thinks he believes in it, and in an attempt to show his belief, he'll do something where he connects an action with Allah Azza wa Jal. So Allah Ta'ala, he made a distinction between the two. لم يكن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب والمشركين منفكين حتى تأتيهم البينة. So he made a distinction that those people disbelieve, kufr, from Ahl al-Kitab and the mushrikeen. They are not going to accept it until the clear evidence comes to them. So the point is, Allah, in that ayat, he made a distinction. The kuffar of Ahl al-Kitab and the mushrikeen of Mecca. And we know there is a big difference. We are allowed to marry women from Ahl al-Kitab, and they are kuffar, who don't commit zina. They're kuffar. But the mushrikeen, who have no book, who have nothing, they have absolutely nothing in terms of divine revelation, we're not allowed to marry from them women. Now the woman who is from Al-Kitab, she's making shirk billah. She's a kafira and she's making shirk billah. But she may not necessarily be making shirk billah. She may be a Unitarian. She's a Unitarian. So she believes Isa is Rasulullah. She believes in Allah. But she rejected Muhammad. She didn't take his sunnah and his legislation. The Yahudi, he doesn't believe that Uzair is the son of Allah. He believes in Musa, but he rejected Isa and he rejected Muhammad. As a result of that, he rejected the Ilah who sent them. So those are some of the differences. That al-kufr is more general than al-shirk. Any more questions, Ikhwani? Faddal. If a person were to swear, a person who swears by other than Allah Azza wa Jalla, he has to make tawbah because it's a major sin. He has to make tawbah for what he did. As for the Iman, does he have a penalty to pay? It depends on what he said, what he was lying about. Depends on what he was saying. So Allah knows best. Ayyub, tfaddal. Is there a better thing than saying MashaAllah? You can't say a better thing, but it's more appropriate. Not a better thing, but more appropriate. And that is, like the Prophet mentioned, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إِذَا رَأَى أَحَدُكُمْ فِي أَخِيهِ مَا يُعْجِبُهُ فَلْيَدْعُ لَهُ بِالْبَرَكَةِ. If any one of you sees something from his brother that pleases him and impresses him, then let that individual make dua for him for barakah. So it's better, because you'll be following the hadith, it's better to say, Allah yubarak feek, Allah yubarak fihi, barakallahu fihi, yazidakallah barakatan wa khayra. So that's more appropriate, because that's the direct irshad of the sunnah. Da'ma yuribuka ila ma la yuribuka. As for MashaAllah, it's istinbat from the Qur'an that man said, وَلَوْ إِذْ دَخَلْتَ جَنَّتَكَ قُلْتَ مَا شَاءَ اللَّهِ. If when you entered into your Jannah that was destroyed, you should have said MashaAllah, because he was praising, he was happy for what he had. So some of the scholars said, when an individual is making dua for himself, or if he sees something about himself, he says MashaAllah, because that man whose Jannah was destroyed, and he didn't say MashaAllah, he didn't say MashaAllah, it was destroyed. So his friend said, his partner said, if you would only said MashaAllah. So if an individual has a ni'mah and someone says to him, hey, you got a nice car, he says about his car, MashaAllah. He says. As for the one who sees it, he should make dua for barakah. And Allah knows best. Any more questions, Ikhwani? Salam. Rahmatullahi. If a person doesn't know the aqidah of a Muslim, it's not his responsibility to go and to test people. What do you believe in? It's not from the religion of Islam. You are to judge people based upon what is apparent. But you have a religious responsibility to pay attention and to look and to smell, because this is your religion. And that's why those people from the past, they used to say, pay attention to the person who you take your religion from. So they told us, if they came to take knowledge from a person, before sitting to take knowledge, they will look, how does he pray? Is he disciplined in his prayer? Is he moving the right way mechanically? Or is he looking around? Does he look like he has a sakina and a tutma'nina? He's calm. Because if he's going real quick, the Prophet said that's the biggest thief. أسرق الرجل الذي يسرق صلاته لا يتم ركوعها ولا سجودها. The biggest thief is the one who steals in his prayer. He doesn't complete the bowing. He doesn't complete the sajda. So if he's a thief in the prayer, he's going to be a thief in other things. He's not going to have that discipline. So all of that goes to show you have to pay attention. You have to keep your eyes open. You have to keep your ears peeled. You have to keep your nose smelling for the aroma of the sunnah and the aroma of innovation. So he has that responsibility. But to go up and before starting the prayer, he says to the imam, hold on. What do you believe? La, abadan. Goes to the imam's office. What do you believe? La. He doesn't do that. But he can figure these things out by just looking. He comes into the masjid and he sees, you know that sign of the bro. He's like, you know that sign, that thing, the lights are flashing for the mawlid. He sees that on someone's house or the masjid. He gives a good indication this is probably a masjid of Brawiism, for an example. He goes into the masjid, he finds, Ya Allah, Ya Muhammad. Then he gets a good idea. He can look at people and get a pretty good idea. These people are trying to be on the sunnah. But our responsibility is what is apparent. Allah didn't send anybody to open up the chest of a person and to make imtihan, to make a test, to test people. What do you think about that sheikh and this sheikh? What do you think about the people who pray in this masjid and that masjid? All of that is from the innovations in the religion of Islam. So once you know people are upon those things, then we say, avoid that. Avoid it. Because it's munkar, it's shirk, it's innovation. And those people will just increase you in dalala. Because they don't know. And you're going to have problems. Because birds of a feather flock together. You're going to have problems. And try to get with people who are similar to what you're upon, or at least they're on the way. Because some of these masajid like that, they will see you as a troublemaker, and you may be a troublemaker trying to pray there and exist with them. But haniyan to the person who has hikmah, he has knowledge, he has sabr, he has love for Muslims, and he goes and he tries to give them dawah in the best way. Not by bending the rules, not by having a tamni' where he's watering things down, but he's there to sincerely try to elevate them. And that's the sunnah of Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. But that's not for everybody. That's for the person who has the ability. Or maybe a person will have the ability, but it's not total ability, but it's some. For an example, his circumstances. This is the reality of his relatives. All of his relatives are like this. So he's forced to be with them at different occasions, places, and times. So he has to give them dawah. But for someone like me, I don't have anything to do with those people, so I don't have to go. I don't have anything. I don't pray with them, anything like that. So it's just an issue of fiqh and fahm, how to understand and how to deal with and how to be on top of the issue. Akramakallah. Any more questions, Ikhwani? Okay, نكتفي بهذا القدر ونسأل الله تعالى أن يوفقنا وإياكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله إخواني. Alaikum salam. Hey, anybody here driving? Yusuf is not here. No. You didn't get your license yet in your car? How you been, Zakaria? Good, man. What's up? Huh? You got a car? From your mother? How you feel, Sharif? You okay? Did you get my message about that hadith? Yeah. You never heard that before?
I have bits of it, but I've never really checked into it.
Yeah, and those books that talk about Yom Qiyamah, about the signs of the hour, they also bring that, like Ibn Kathir's book. Something.
Book at the end.
Yeah, like that book. You got that book? It's in here.
You got it, yeah?
You got a lift? You got a car?